Investment and strategic cooperation were high on the agenda as Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif visits China. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu and this is The Heat. It was a gathering of longtime friends and neighbours when Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif met with Chinese officials. The Pakistani leader made his first trip to China since his re-election in March. Pakistan is trying to navigate a prolonged economic crisis by pursuing foreign investments and enhanced trade opportunities. We begin with this report from CGTN's Daniel Khan.
Pakistanis have largely reacted positively to Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's China visit, viewing it as a crucial step towards economic revitalization and technological advancement. Local media as well as the state television are abuzz with support and hope, with many expressing their optimism about the potential benefits of enhanced China-Pakistan cooperation. Observers say the visit is a turning point for Pakistan's economic future, saying the agreements and collaborations being discussed could bring much needed investment and job opportunities in Pakistan. Young Pakistanis and technology enthusiasts are especially excited about the prospects of increased collaboration with Chinese tech firms. There is also a sense of reassurance among the public regarding the Prime Minister's commitments to providing security for Chinese workers and combating corruption. These measures are seen as essential for fostering a stable and attractive investment climate in Pakistan. The Pakistani people are hopeful that the outcomes of this trip will pave the way for a prosperous future driven by strong bilateral ties and collaborative efforts in key sectors. Daniel Khan, CGTN, Islamabad.
There is much to talk about. Let's get to our panel. Gong is a professor at the University of International Business and Economics. Zoon Ahmed is a research fellow with the Center for China and Globalization. Also with us is Victor Gar. He's a chair professor at Soochow University. And Mushahid Hussain Sayed serves as a senator in the Pakistani parliament. Welcome to all of you. Senator Hussain, let me start with you. In an interview before traveling to Beijing, Prime Minister Sharif, speaking about the relationship with China, said, and I'm quoting him here, he said, "We are two iron brothers. Our friendship is unshakable. Our hearts beat together." Those are very effusive comments from the Prime Minister on the links between the two countries. How would you characterize the relationship between Pakistan and China?
I think the Prime Minister of Pakistan summed it up very well, and that effusive tone was aptly reflected in the joint statement between Pakistan and China at the conclusion of his very successful, remarkable visit, which said there is an unbreakable strategic mutual trust between the two countries. And as President Xi Jinping told our Prime Minister, in the presence of our army chief, who was also present in the meeting, that China views relationship with Pakistan from a strategic, long-term perspective. And I think that is the bottom line, that this is a long-term strategic bond which is being strengthened and expanded comprehensively during this visit.
Right. Senator, China is Pakistan's largest trading partner. Beijing has invested something like $65 billion in CPEC. That's the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It's part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. And this focuses on things like communications infrastructure, roads, railways, and other infrastructure development. What are some of the key takeaways from the Prime Minister's visit?
I think the key takeaways was that it's a revival of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Then it's what President Xi Jinping said, that expanded and upgraded version of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor to include industry, agriculture, information technology, mining, science and technology, and education. So broadening the vistas of cooperation and also extending it to outer space, to artificial intelligence, to culture, sports, tourism, think tanks, and the media. So the horizon has become broader and the content has become deeper in all areas. So it really shows that the Iron Brothers are reinforcing this relationship in the 21st century as we try to confront challenges together in the region and the world.
Victor Gao, as we heard from our reporter there, this is a turning point in the relationship. You know, we have phase one of CPEC, which delivered something like 236,000 jobs, 510 kilometers of roads, and more than 8,000 megawatts of electricity. Here is the former Pakistan Prime Minister Shahid Khan Abbasi on the friendship between the two countries. Let's listen.
It's a very old friendship, and it can only grow. We are growing not only in political terms, in economic terms, in military terms. We are neighbors. We have a close relationship on most issues in the world. In fact, all issues we are together. So it's a relationship which is very strategic for both the countries, and especially with the BRI, and CPAC is part of the BRI. So it's become even a stronger relationship with the years. And I hope to see it grow further.
So, Victor, talk to us about this partnership. I mean, how does China see it?
Thank you very much. I think the Chinese people and the Pakistani people are truly brothers and sisters towards each other. And we are dedicated to promoting the friendship and the exchanges between China and Pakistan. And we are all-weather friends and partners. Now, from the Chinese perspective, Pakistan is important as a neighboring country, as a Muslim country, and also as a crucial link between China and the Islamic world at large. And we really respect each other. We deal with each other as friends and as partners and as good neighbors, as brothers and sisters. Allow me to mention one thing. You know, the Chang'e 6 lunar model touched down on the further side of the moon and did some fascinating experiments. One of the experiments was actually proposed by Pakistan, and it touched down on the further side of the moon, and the results of that experiment is being carried out to the Earth as we speak. This is one example to show that China-Pakistani cooperation is real. It is really for the mutual benefit, and China is fully happy and willing to share with the Pakistani brothers and sisters the highest form of technologies and scientific breakthrough that we are making at present and going forward. Now, talking about CPEC, allow me to make a very quick point. CPEC itself is a massive project, but in the overall proportion of the BRI projects, allow me to emphasize that CPEC is the largest and the most complicated and the most comprehensive investment project, and also the largest amount of capital involved. Therefore, I think that our Pakistani friends should really take great delight in the fact that CPEC is being promoted by China and Pakistan together, and hopefully it will generate long-term benefits for both countries. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, it will really promote the connectivity inside Pakistan as well as with China and between Pakistan and the rest of the world in terms of connectivity projects of all kinds, infrastructure, highways, railways, and power generation, as well as cyber connectivity and financial connectivity. So we are very confident that this CPEC project will eventually be a landmark project between China and Pakistan, not only generating a huge amount of jobs, but also helping to promote the quality of manufacturing and other economic activities inside Pakistan for many years to come. CPEC itself is a long-term investment for the benefit of the Pakistani people for the coming 50 years to 100 years. It's a long-term investment.
Zoon, great to see you. Let's talk a little bit more about the economic relationship. I mean, during their meeting on Friday, President Xi said that China is willing to expand and upgrade the country's economic ties with Pakistan, but he hopes that Islamabad can create a, quote, safe, stable and predictable business environment. I mean, this was a reference to some of the security issues that have surfaced in Pakistan. There have been attacks on Chinese workers. I mean, is this something that is going to be overcome very soon?
Well, thank you, firstly, Anand, for having me on the program. And I think, I mean, when we speak about a stable, long-term, predictable business environment, of course, there are recent regional complications. And they have also been partially mentioned in the joint statement that was issued on the 8th of June, where both Pakistan and China talk about some of the solutions on engaging the Afghan government in a more effective way, which has been one of the reasons why we have seen a recent spike in incidents in the last few years. I will also emphasize that another factor for stable economic policies is that even though in Pakistan, absolutely, we have an all-party consensus on China-Pakistan economic corridor, on the importance of this investment, on the fact that it is central to Pakistan's development plans. But at the same time, sometimes, you know, the policies we require and the predictability of those policies in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years is something that we are currently working on, and is something that will be essential to promote the phase 2 of the project, which is what this Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif visit was about. It is about saying that, yes, we do have a lot of success, reasonable success. $26 billion already has been invested in about 50 key projects. We are already expanding in agriculture, IT, various key sectors. But at the same time, what we really need to do now is attract businesses and attract, businesses to invest in Pakistan, to improve Pakistan's export capacity, and also to be able to activate the special economic zones that have been envisioned. As far as the long term or short term, I mean, I think we do both. You know, both countries have deep political support. Both sides have reaffirmed that. I think both Senator Mushahid and Victor Gao's comments also reaffirmed the sentiment on both sides. But it is true that the complications in the region were not created overnight, and they might not be as simple to address. However, we saw some development. For example, last year, the trilateral between China, Iran, and Afghanistan, China, Iran, and Pakistan resulted in some sort of mechanism on both sides, both Pakistan and Iran, to have better communication, coordination, intelligence sharing. So I think that these kinds of mechanisms and implementing the global security initiative, essentially, utilizing the SCO framework, utilizing multilateralism with both sides focus on, can be long-term solutions. But for the short term, we need to strengthen the security, absolutely.
Right, and Zoon, you mentioned some of the sectors where there has been expansion. I mean, you mentioned agriculture. Senator Hussain mentioned it as well, agriculture, technology, renewable energy. I mean, this is being referred to as phase 2 of CPEC. It's also being referred to as the upgraded version. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, first of all, you know, of course, the core infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure, the energy infrastructure, the port of Gwadar, the special economic zones, these were all part of phase 1. And we as Pakistan, not only under CPEC, which is the biggest of the economic corridors within the BRI, but Belt and Road Initiative in general has been talking about transitioning to a second phase, which is about utilization of this infrastructure. So let's also highlight here that as Chief Minister, Shehbaz Sharif was in China, especially a roadshow that I was able to attend in 2017, which was also about attracting businesses to invest in the special economic zones in Pakistan. That said, of course, it is a long-term project. It is going to take years to be able to attract the kind of scale of investment that we want. What we have achieved so far is small and beautiful projects, you know, projects that are going to activate and address the critical challenges of development that Pakistan faces and upgrade the quality of Pakistan's current infrastructure. So we have, of course, job creation. We have upgradation of the agricultural sector. We have improvement of methods of agriculture. We have trainings. Huawei, for instance, has committed to train 200,000 Pakistani youth in IT. For digitalization. So phase 2 essentially is not only the utilization of the existing infrastructure, but essentially to improve Pakistan's capacity and to improve Pakistan's export ability to export, to improve its quality of its manpower and and also the extent to which, you know, we can really be a more dynamic economy. So it's a multifaceted process, which is currently in the right direction.
John Gong, these are ambitious plans, and of course ambitious plans require lots of money. Well, let's talk about the money situation. Since its inception in 2013, tens of billions of dollars have been invested by China. But for its part, Pakistan is mired in debt, currently running at about 70% of GDP. Servicing that debt could consume up to 50%, even 60% of government revenues. How do you see the way forward with those levels of debt?
Yeah, well, what you are pointing out is very true. I think Pakistani economy is indeed sort of in a little bit of a trouble ever since the COVID time, and then it was followed by the big flood and some other difficulties. I think the way getting out of this problem is really through economic growth, and I think the real key ingredient, as you have actually pointed out, is really to try to attract foreign direct investment. I mean, look at the joint statement between the two sides during this visit. It mentions, for example, the industrialization of Pakistan. So obviously, we have built a big infrastructure called CPAC in Pakistan already, and we have to, as Zoon pointed out, we have to make use of that. And I think the recipe is to try to attract foreign direct investment, and of course, including investment from China. But I don't think Chinese investment is just enough. In a sense, I would characterize this as a sort of a competition between Pakistan and India in terms of attracting foreign direct investment. And you look at what's happening in India. I think it's widely successful. The Western capitals are pouring to India, whereas much to be desired of for Pakistan. And I think we have to be honest and ask ourselves, why is that? And I think the key reason is really the security issue. The terrorist attacks against not just Chinese ventures but other ventures as well in Pakistan. And then we really have to solve this problem in Pakistan so as to have a stable and peaceful environment for attracting investment. And I think Pakistan is in a unique position, actually. As pointed out by several panelists previously, that Pakistan has extensive relationship with the Islamic world. And the Gulf countries, they do have capital. They got to be interested in making investment in Pakistan. And together with the manufacturing prowess and technology transfers from China, I think there's a potential to turn Pakistan into at least a viable competitor to India in terms of industrialization, in terms of serving as an export base for manufactured products in the future.
Senator Hussain, on the question of investment, so how does Pakistan attract the kind of investment that it would need? I mean, this is in addition to the IMF funding, it's in addition to CPEC, but broadly speaking, how does it attract that foreign direct investment?
Well, I think apart from China, which has taken the lead, and as was rightly mentioned, in the last 10 years, China has pumped in about $26 billion. That was mostly in G2G investment in infrastructure and energy. In the second phase of CPEC, we are looking at mostly B2B investment also. And the MOUs that were signed during the visit of the Prime Minister, there was a delegation of about almost 100 businessmen accompanying him from Pakistan. And they were in the forefront of signing those MOUs. And apart from China, we also have infusion of funds forthcoming from Saudi Arabia, which has promised $25 billion. UAE, the United Arab Emirates, which has promised $10 billion. And Qatar, which has promised $5 billion. So we are looking at a fairly large sum of investment coming in different directions. And of course, we've realized the challenges that have been mentioned by my colleagues on the panel. Security has been in the forefront. And secondly, of course, we have had some natural disasters, courtesy climate change, which have been quite devastating for the economy. And then we had some political instability also. So all these have been contributory factors to stalling our economic development, but the potential is huge, and that potential is now going to be realized. And the Prime Minister's visit to China has been, in that way, a landmark event in promoting Pakistan as an investor-friendly destination for our friends in the region.
Yeah, Senator Hussain, before I move on, I just want to talk about Pakistan's external debt. And I'm looking at the numbers here. Last year, that external debt reached $130 billion. That was when inflation was running at about 40%, and the World Bank was predicting growth of 1.8% for 2023-2024. But since then, the numbers have been going in the right direction, haven't they? Inflation has dropped considerably. It's been almost halved from 40%. And growth has been revised to more than 2%, in some instances up to 2.8%. And Pakistan right now is seeking a loan from the IMF. So how do you see the economic outlook?
Well, I think the economic situation has taken an upturn as situation a turn for the better. Since last year, there's been broadly a stabilization of the situation since we signed the IMF agreement. And a new one is apparently forthcoming, where we are asking for a loan of about $6 to $8 billion. And you are right, inflation has been cut into half, and there's more remittances and looking towards export-led growth. So the worst is behind us. And I think that the difficult period that was there last year is not going to be around for a long time. And we also see that our debt to China is only 13% of the overall debt. So when it compares, when they talk of Chinese debt, it is a small factor in the overall debt picture. But overall, also the situation has by and large stabilized in terms of politics, in terms of economics, and in terms of our relationship with the key institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, and now especially with China as a force multiplier to push this forward, backed by friends from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, and UAE. I think you will see a qualitative difference in the months and year ahead.
Victor Gao, this has been described as an all-weather cooperative partnership with support for each other's core interests. How do you see the strategic relationship in the region between China and Pakistan?
Well, that part of the world is in itself undergoing tremendous amount of changes. The American sudden departure from Afghanistan, the ending of the war of 20 years in Afghanistan, and the reinstatement of Taliban in Afghanistan, and the potential spillover of whatever extreme situations out of Pakistan into neighboring countries like Pakistan and China, especially China's Xinjiang Autonomous Region, all these are contributing factors to the fact that there is indeed a lack of security, lack of confidence in the economic environment in Pakistan, etc. So I think the focal point of China-Pakistani cooperation, as well as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's attention, should still be dealing with the spillover of extremism and terrorism, mostly out of Afghanistan. And I think as true friends of the Pakistani people, if you allow me to make several advices, always maintain stability at home and always protecting peace abroad, especially in your neighboring countries. And then always focus on economic development. And these things are interrelated with each other. Yeah. Without stability, don't expect that foreign investment will really flow in without restriction. And without peace in the neighborhood, you really cannot really promote your economic development. And I think China and Pakistan should really share our experiences together to achieving these important goals: stability at home, peace abroad in your neighboring countries, and also focus on development. Now we have the CPAC more or less kind of being lined up. It is true that we need to bring in more investments, and investments will hesitate to come in if they do not feel comfortable about the security environment, about the pro-business environment, etc.
Zoon, of course, we talk about the relationship between these two countries, but these are not just abstract agreements in any way. I mean, they will directly impact the livelihoods and the quality of life for millions of people in Pakistan. I mean, Pakistan has its own challenges in that respect. Poverty levels are running at unacceptably high levels. How do you see that improved with the kind of investment we're going to be seeing?
I think, first of all, Anand, I mean, it's important to see that the MOUs that have been signed in the specific sectors are providing an important direction. And this direction has been determined after a lot of analysis. As Senator Mushahid also mentioned, I mean, Pakistan has gone through extraordinary challenges in the last few years. Not only the political instability, but the floods ravaged massive portions of Pakistan and affected the livelihood, the basics that we were standing on. And of course, COVID-19 did not help. So that said, I think it's important to know that the MOUs assign, they allocate, they give a certain important, meaningful direction based on mutual coordination, based on the JCC mechanism, based on also prior to Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's visit, we had the foreign minister and the planning and development ministers visiting China to determine. And I think really what Pakistan needs right now is that we recognize CPEC's success is not inevitable. I think on a basic level, we realize that, but we should understand and study China's success and also study the challenges that China has faced in these 40 plus years of reform and opening up. Agency, reflection, receptivity on policies, what's working, what's not, is going to be critical to make sure that we are able to improve our economy and the livelihoods of people, which is much needed.
Right, John Gong, I've just got a little bit of time left. Beijing, of course, has been one of Pakistan's most reliable partners. In July last year, China granted Pakistan a 2-year rollover on a $2.4 billion loan. Pakistan, of course, as I mentioned earlier on, is also seeking something like $6 billion from the IMF. Those negotiations are taking place right now. Question is, will that be enough? Will it be sustainable?
Well, as I said, that the way out of this is to have further economic growth, to have more investment, and to improve the current account balance picture. And I think what China can do is certainly to avoid a sort of a delinquent situation by rolling over the loans. I think China can still stick to this strategy for a while. And overall, I've seen some studies. I've talked to some people who have investigated this issue. I think the current account balance problem in Pakistan is not something incurable. I mean, I think as the economy recovers, as the current account balance situation improves, there's a hope of resolving this issue. So looking forward, I would say that the fundamental economic growth will lead the problem in Pakistan out of this hole.
Okay, and that's where we have to leave it. Thanks to all of you for being with us. And that is it for this edition of The Heat. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C.